Right.
a lawyer's office. Is that what you would call this that we're going to? Or is there a law firm? That's it, right? That's the word I believe I'm looking for. All right, guys, so we're on our way down to a law firm in the Ohio City area. I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Tittle and Perlmutter, I think is it. I'm sure we'll find out. I believe it is Dog Bite Awareness Month, if I'm not mistaken, this month. And they emailed me, they reached out, and they asked if I would come down, talk to one of their attorneys about dog bites, preventing dog bites, things like that, to do a little bit of a marketing campaign. So Paige and I are on our way there now. We'll talk to them and we'll see if we can give them some pointers. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What's your name, David?
Yes.
Hey, I'm Jessica.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
This is Paige.
Hi, Paige.
She does all our media stuff.
Nice. I don't do any media stuff, so Paige, maybe you can help me out. We're setting them up here. We filmed a video previously that turned out pretty good in this spot.
Cool.
Even though I don't love the background of that fence.
Oh, can you see the fence through the video?
No, and our guy ended up kind of editing it out. Luckily, do you do the editing too? Yes. I had so much respect for that. I know it's hard. Luckily, the guy that does the editing, he ended up like blurring it. So,
sure.
So you can't tell.
So what's kind of your guys' plan with this? So what is it? Is it August? That's like Dog Bite Prevention Month or something, or?
That's a great question. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, I think that's why they reached out originally. They said it was something like that.
I see a lot of dog training videos trending on TikTok.
Yeah, there's always something, that's for sure.
Are they frustrating, or are you like, oh good, it's good?
It's a mix of both. Yeah, there's all sorts of different opinions and stuff like that. And, just due to the nature of TikTok and platforms like that, like where you're sharing just like bite-sized pieces of content, like a lot of it is more so they tend to lean more so towards the purpose of like entertaining than educating. So some of it's kind of BS, and then there's some people out there that do a really good job with it. So
how'd you get into it?
Got my first dog, started learning about it. And just kind of grew from there. So we do primarily like behavioral modification and work with like aggressive dogs and things like that. So that's kind of our bread and butter, I would say. And it's just definitely a passion of ours. We helping people with a dog that's having issues like that. Obviously, in your guys' case, you see the ramifications of if something happens. Yeah, but if something happens, like how big of a deal that can be for you, like puts you in a very vulnerable position. And then, on the victim standpoint, like it puts them in a terrible position also. So if we could save you the headache and the frustration of not getting into that position to begin with, and save somebody else the headache and frustration of getting bit and needing to be in the situation, like, hell yeah, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm Katie Harris.
Nice to meet you, David.
You too.
So we're going to be talking about some dog stuff today.
Better. I'll have you take a seat
Sure.
in the chair. We usually have sound machines on, and it's crazy
Nice.
what a difference they make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Can we go grab the big one from across the street?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That thing gets me every day. Do you know that dog statue?
No.
What
is there one right around the corner?
Yeah, and it's right at a gate, like right where a dog would actually sit.
That's funny. I'm sure I've seen it a million times before, but have never noticed it.
Every time I pull up, I'm like,
yeah.
Wait, did they get another one?
Yes, there's a
Oh, is it that one right there? Are you talking, or is that an actual dog behind that fence?
No,
Yeah, no, that's the dog.
Okay, so that actually from here does look like a real dog.
Oh yeah, I pull up every time and I'm like,
That's pretty funny.
When I leave, if it's dark out, I'm like,
Yeah. Okay, so these two, the one thing I would say is these two questions here are very much phrased from the lens of like, what can I do as the victim to make sure I don't get bit? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where,
I thought that too. So I wonder if you can frame it a little more what you do as the dog owner.
Exactly, right? Because really, in a nutshell, like when you get into preventing aggression and stuff like that, it's 99.9% in the hands of the person that has the dog, right? Like it's very difficult to say, because unless you know the dog, you can't really there's different things as far as like body language and so, you know what I mean?
And so many of my clients will literally just be like out out mowing the lawn or something,
Yeah.
and a dog comes running out and
Exactly.
bites him on the
Yes.
leg, or they're just petting a little kid petting a dog over at their friend's house, and they go for
Yeah.
the face, which actually happened to me when I was little, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Can I steal that paper from you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was right after it was the first time I went over to a friend's house after I had broken my nose in second grade, and her little, like a Shih Tzu or something, just I was petting it, and all of a sudden it went and bit me right on the nose and left like this little, it's gone now, but I had a little scar on my nose, and of course my mom was up in an uproar, and I was
Sure.
traumatized because I had just gone through this whole thing with
Yeah,
my nose being broken, and then I'm like,
It's like, let's deal with this again. The dog thought you wanted some more work.
right.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of situations that we run into, and that gets back to like the whole owner side of things, which is
Right.
like 99% of people aren't honest with themselves about their dog. You know what I mean? They're not. They're kind of oblivious to this idea that either like my dog is never going to do anything, right? Or I'm just, it's never going to escalate past this point of like, oh, they just get a little grumpy every now and then, or when they get tired, we just have to put them away, or it was a little puppy nip or something like that, as opposed to like, hey, like these can turn into serious problems if they go unchecked. So yeah, that's so much of it.
A couple seconds for somebody to be just
Bingo.
completely.
Yeah. I mean, 99% of those situations when people get like seriously injured, it's like 10 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
Yeah. We are here today to talk a little bit about how we can prevent dog bite injuries, and then of course what you all can do if one does occur.
What are some warning signs for aggressive dogs and some body language to watch out for?
Preventing dog aggression generally is much less in the hands of the victim and much more in the owner of the dog. And really, if you break it down at its core, it starts with just understanding your dog and being very honest about their behavior. Not every dog is the social butterfly that you might have grown up with. Not every dog is the picture-perfect golden retriever, and that doesn't mean that they're bad dogs necessarily. That simply means that sometimes they need something a little bit different. So when you get into large family gatherings, really busy public places, this kind of new trend of being able to take your dog everywhere with you, that's not ideal for every dog, and that's okay, right? That doesn't mean you have a bad dog or that you can't provide a wonderful life, but sometimes those types of contexts can be so overwhelming for dogs and put them into this fight or flight position where if they don't feel like they can get away in a stressful situation and they're a little bit overwhelmed by it, they may resort to reacting and doing things like lunging, barking, biting to try to make those threats go away. So from the standpoint of the dog owner, the best thing we can do is just understand our dog's threshold and know how to advocate properly for them. So when we notice that they're starting to get a little bit uncomfortable by things, we start minimizing the amount of times these social interactions are going to be happening and people are going to be invading their space to reduce the chances that a bite might actually happen.
And so from a training perspective, how do you approach working with owners and dogs to figure out what those triggers for them might be?
Sure. So generally speaking, the first thing we want to do is get like a read of where like home base is for our dog, right? So, we can put them in various different tests in a controlled manner where I could simulate interacting with the dog in a safe way. We could take the dog to some different public settings and not allow interactions, but just gauge as the stimulation goes up in the environment, what does the dog's state of mind do, right? Do they handle it fine? Do they seem confident? Do they seem like they start getting a little stressed out or shut down? And we start getting a read for just where the dog is at. So we could first and foremost, before we ever start any training, start educating the owner on these are good situations to put your dog in, these are bad situations to put your dog in. If you're gonna have your dog around guests that come over, these are the best practices for doing so from a training standpoint to help make sure that we're not overwhelming them too much and stuff like that.
Got it. What do you think is the number one just thing that dog owners miss about their pets?
That's a good question. A lot of dog owners they're not respectful enough that dogs are dogs still, right? And the end of the day, a dog is an animal, a dog is a predator, a dog has teeth, and they can't communicate verbally like we can. If I had a disagreement with somebody, I could talk to them and explain to them what I'm upset about and have a non-confrontational conversation with them about something like that. A dog can't do that. their only way of letting a human know that they don't like something is by showing something that we would consider aggression, right? And if we're not understanding them well enough to put them in proper situations, you're gonna see more and more of the dog realizing that they have to be the one that sets those boundaries because we're not gonna do it for them.
So you were saying earlier that a lot of what happens with dog behavior comes more down to the owners and understanding their dogs than to the victim of a potential dog bite or dog attack, right?
Correct.
But obviously we know that sometimes bad things do happen.
Yep.
Dogs do lash out. What are some of the signs that might indicate a dog is about to go in that direction?
Sure. Yeah, no, good question. I would say like when you start noticing the dogs stiffen up a lot, right? They start getting tense. We call it the whale eyes. The eyes start getting really expanded. A lot of like holding their breath, right? It's like kind of tensing up, stressing out, stuff like that. Avoidance signs. So if the dog is actively trying to get away from you, I think, a lot of people kind of have this idea that if a dog is fearful, right, or insecure around a guest that comes over, the guest feels like they need to push the boundary more to try to earn the dog's trust, right? So let's say the dog is uncomfortable and trying to get away from you, and your friend is like, dogs love me, it's fine, don't worry about it, right? And they start pursuing the dog that's trying to get away from them and be like, it's okay, don't worry, this, that. That is the absolute worst thing that you could do in that situation. And I would say that is actually probably the number one thing that I see victims do that put themselves in a position where the dog actually bites. So if a dog shows like avoidance and they need some space, leave them be. Just let them do that, right? And it's our job as the owner to see those signs. And the hardest thing to do as the owner is to tell that friend or that family member, or sometimes even your child, you gotta leave the dog alone. Right? If the dog is trying to do the right thing and give themselves space, allow them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then, obviously we want to make sure that we give some input on what people should do if they get into a situation where they have been bitten by a dog. Unfortunately, it does happen, and it can happen really quickly. I think there's kind of three categories of what people should be focusing on. Obviously, immediately, you want to make sure that you get medical attention. You want to get to the doctor right away. You want to get checked out. Anything that needs to be stitched up, get it stitched up. Any antibiotics, there can be infections involved with any kind of an animal bite. So make sure you get medical attention right away. Your health is the number one priority. The second category of things that you should be doing after a dog bite is sort of gathering information that you might need in order to find out what happened and know what steps need to be taken and who all is involved in this. So definitely want to make sure that you get animal control involved because they can go out and do a report. They can confirm the dog owner. They can confirm that the dog has its shots, which of course feeds back into taking care of your own health. Also want to make sure that you get photos of both of your injuries and of the dogs if you can. It's true what the saying is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So anytime you have an injury that involves a bite or any kind of a wound, you want to make sure you get a picture of that. So it's documented not only at the earliest stage when it first happened, but also as you move forward, as scarring is developing, to just show that journey and that progress of what has happened and everything that you've been through. Third thing that you should do is call a lawyer. All that somebody who's been attacked or had a loved one attacked by a dog should be worrying about is getting better. And by reaching out to a lawyer, you will have the peace of mind to know that they deal with these kinds of things day in and day out. They can take the pressure off of you so that you have guidance to get you in the right direction, both with your healing and also with respect to contacting the dog owner and building up the case to pursue whatever claims are available to you. Because at the end of the day, when something like this has happened, it's disruptive. There's often a lot of emotional fear and anxiety that goes along with this. And in order to get to the result that is the most fair for whoever's been attacked by a dog, you want to have an experienced lawyer on your side.
Is there anything that someone could do in a situation where like maybe they see those warning signs, like oh, this dog's about to bite me? Is there like a trick that they can keep in mind?
It depends on the context of it, right? So like if you're being that guy that's kind of like, I don't want to say bugging the dog, but like you're pushing the boundaries a little too much, the second you start noticing those signs, just stop, right? 90% of the time, dogs don't want to like maul you. You know what I mean? Like in most cases, all they want is for you to go away. And if you just go away, like a lot of times it obviously just ends, right?
Yeah, so I get where they're coming from, sort of.
Yeah, honestly, in a lot of cases, it's unfortunate. You know, obviously, you know, there's different categories of it, right? You have like unprovoked aggression sometimes, right? Which that's a much bigger issue and a much bigger problem, obviously. You know, I called that example, obviously, provoked aggression, right? Which is kind of like, you know, like maybe let's just stop doing what we're doing right now, you know, and just like hit pause and just give the dog some space. You know, if you don't have good training on your dog, if you're having a big gathering, you know, a lot of these incidents happen like when you're having the barbecue and everybody's eating, drinking, having a good time, nobody's paying attention to the dogs, and we're not looking for the signs that the dog is overwhelmed, right? And then something happens where it's like, you know, like even my wife and I, we have 4 dogs, they're highly trained at this point, and if we have a big get together or something like that, the dogs aren't always out for it, you know? Sometimes we just put them away to give ourselves a mental break of needing to watch them and pay attention to them and stuff like that. You know, if you're in a context of like an off-leash dog running at you or whatever it may be, which I say is probably like, I would guess like probably the number 1 or the number 2 situation, like a dog escapes out of the yard or something like that, starts chasing you down. It's hard, but like the worst thing you could do is like run in a situation like that, because you just tap into like a prey drive kind of state of mind where the dog doesn't even necessarily want to bite you, but it's like we're running, this is becoming a game. It's like we teach dogs to run and grab balls, so you're kind of just the toy in that equation. You know what I mean?
Like the rabbit that's out in the garden.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, you know, from the owner's standpoint, it's like, you know, really make sure, like, if you're leaving your dog unattended or the dog is outside and stuff like that, make sure that the dog is secure, right? Make sure your fencing is secure. See, a lot of situations, people will adopt a dog and they don't realize that their fence is trash, for a better choice of words, and then the fence breaks and the dog goes loose and then something bad happens, right? But yeah, the worst thing you can do is run in that situation. Honestly, like in a lot of those cases, if you just stand there, right, or if you do some sort of kind of quick motion towards the dog to try to kind of startle them away from you or something, that could be significantly more productive, you know. But those situations are hard because you don't know the other dog, right? So it's like, what do I do, right? So I usually, you know, the way I instruct my clients is whatever you need to do to protect yourself, you know, but running is generally not going to be very productive in that case.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us today. Miracle Canine Training in Cleveland. It's been great to talk with you, and hopefully it's been valuable for the people who watch.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'll tell you, Paige, today would be a great day for some sailing, but my boat's broken. I'm gonna be so annoying. I'm gonna introduce myself as, my name's David Turpak of 30 Under 30, Forbes magazine. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. So what's going on?
Nothing, he's doing good.
Good, getting back in the groove?
Yeah, being lazy still.
I like it.
Definitely has a little time.
Yeah, you know. What have you guys been working on since we got together last?
His bed stays.
Okay.
And his comes.
Cool.
And he's doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you had him in the front yard or anything?
No,
Work that? That's
yet.
okay. Don't worry about it.
We want to do it, but with like a long
Sure.
lead.
Yeah, that's why I brought this.
We do.
Cool.
Yeah, ever since that last training session, that helped kind of reset him.
Yep.
And it was just smooth sailing once.
Awesome.
He got back in the groove, so thank
Little
you for
reset.
that.
Yeah. Awesome. I love to hear it. All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll start walking down to the beach here and we'll see what we get. So right now, obviously, he's free. He can do whatever he wants to do. So we'll just kind of hang out, get over this way and see what we get. All right, so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off by, anytime I come to an environment like this, I try to make sure I have control over him first, right? So we're gonna walk around. I'm not gonna be making him do anything super strict, but if he does pull to the end of the leash or anything like that, I'll give a correction for that if he doesn't heed to it. Once we've got him fairly focused in and he's behaving himself, we'll start giving him more and more freedom. So we'll just kind of walk around a little bit here. Okay. job, buddy. So like I said, no expectation of him. He doesn't have to come to me. I'm just kind of rewarding the engagement and stuff. Good job, bud.
He's going to he zones out.
Yeah. He's like, wait a minute. Yeah. And like I said, totally fine. Like I'm allowing him to go off, do his thing and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Basil. Good job. Good job. Okay. Hey, he's doing great. Good job, buddy. Basil. Good job. Very good. So obviously in a context like that, like if you're coming somewhere like this, like you run the probability a dog is going to come up to you.
Yep.
Stay totally, like if you are on a long line, just make sure there's zero tension on that leash. Let them kind of do their thing. And right there, to avoid him like trying to take off and then get pulled back by the leash, I just called him back as that dog ran away. One, to test him, which he did great with, right? And two, to make sure he didn't feel that tension and start getting frustrated from it. So, come on, bud. Basil, good job. All I want you to do is just kind of walk around a little bit, you know, stay super loose on that leash. He can do whatever he wants to do. And if you feel like he's drifting off a lot, just practice a quick call him back to you. And you don't even have to get so formal with giving like a come command.
Yeah.
I was just using his name as like an informal, I just want to see him check in with me, you know? Very good. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next step here, which is going to be giving him a little more freedom even. So why don't you guys just drop the leash on the ground. We're going to keep walking around here, but now I don't care who he follows. So if he goes from you to me, whatever. And my only expectation is just that if I need to, if he gets too far out and doesn't check back in like that, that I could call him back to me, right? What do you think, dude? So let's go ahead and keep on walking around. We'll start walking back this way. And he'll probably think he needs to follow somebody still. It's no big deal, just ignore him. He'll start to drift off again. Now when I'm doing this stuff, I just keep the e-collar set all the way up just in case. You know, if he were to try to like take off or something, I want to have the highest probability that I can stop him quickly. It's your friend again. And like I said, I'd almost rather the first couple times him be a little extra focused in, you know, so he knows he needs to be on his P's and Q's, then him slowly kind of start to get a little bit more freedom. It's just going to be more, whoa, going to be a little bit more reliable. There goes my socks. Very good. So why don't you go ahead and try and call him here.
Basil.
Perfect. Good job, buddy.
That was loud, huh?
Now, generally speaking, at this stage and things, I would take the leash off, but because it's so loud, we're going to leave it on, obviously. This is not as ideal of a situation to do it in, just because, yeah, I mean, he literally, like, you could tell when this dog ran over here, his owners called to him, and I could hardly even hear what they were saying, you know? Don't shake on me! Basil. Good. Now, if I didn't get a quick response on that, I would give a tap on the e-collar, obviously. The expectation isn't so much that he comes to us, he just needs to check in. And that's kind of how we manage him as we're walking by, like kids or a dog playing with a ball or something like that that he doesn't need to be a part of.
Yeah, it seems like he's getting it. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's doing
Great.
fantastic, yeah.
That was surprising considering last time you were
oh, considering
here.
last time was not good.
Yeah.
It was like night and day.
Yeah.
He's not like a good baseline for how he was beforehand.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, the first couple times I go somewhere like that, I always focus on the control side first, you know? This isn't for fun and all that kind of stuff just yet. We gotta make sure we can keep you under control here so that we could then give him the freedom and feel confident we can get him back under control if we need to. I feel like they're still coming off.
No, he did it.
Yeah, they're pretty high. Nice. Yeah, looks great. You're like a reformed gentleman, buddy. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I'd like to see out of you guys over the next 3-4 weeks or so is to start building your trust in him a little more in like off-leash context. You don't have to have him off-leash all the time, but stuff like what we did just now, where he drags the long line around, whether it's in the yard, whether it's somewhere like here, you know? Things like that are gonna be very productive for just you starting to be able to give him more freedoms later on, you know? Because he's very capable of it. Like, he was so good today. I mean, plenty of distractions and stuff. He really didn't care a whole lot. When we do need to correct him for something, he's very responsive to it, you know? So I really think he'll behave himself really nicely. You just got to do it more, you know?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, probably be easier for Amy to figure out than me too. So I keep trying to like guide him and like,
Sure.
you know, like, no, I don't want you doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you'll start noticing, you know, as you start trusting him more, you won't need to micromanage him as much, you know? So when you go down somewhere like that, you really can feel confident that if he does sprint 40 yards ahead or something like that, it's not a big deal. You know, like that's one of my favorite things to do with my dogs. We got a couple fields by us we'll take them to, and we'll just let them just go freaking tearing through the fields, you know?
I want that.
yeah.
And but
Because he's very lazy.
100%, you know?
To run.
Yeah, so he like knows that we're letting him do it. Not
Exactly, right? But you got to trust him to do that, because the first time the dog goes to do it, we're like, oh no, like don't do that, right? So as you experience more situations like this where he just behaves himself and he doesn't take off, you'll feel more confident when you do give him that freedom, you know, that you could still get him back. So, and the long line's a great tool, you know, it allows you to be able to kind of simulate it in a little bit more safe of a manner, or if you needed to, you could step on it or grab it real quick or something like that. So yeah, I would definitely pick one of those up. And when you buy one, you just get one off Amazon or something.
Sounds perfect.
But I think he looks really, really awesome right now.
It does. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's literally a miracle.
Basil!
What?
We'll let you slide on that one because I did call you. Basil, come here.
He doesn't know where you are.
You did so good, buddy. So good.
Working with my buddy Frank today. It's his first day, so we're kind of filming what it's like for a dog's first day here at Miracle. So going out on his walk, taking his first walk. First days are really about evaluating kind of where the dog's at in certain situations, depending on just the walk in general, depending on reactivity towards people, dogs, cars, birds, all those different distractions. And he's been doing really well so far. We do have the prong collar on him that we're just doing leash pressure stuff right now. So first day especially, we typically don't do too much or really any e-collar stuff. We just do pressure stuff. Again, to kind of just get them into starting working that groundwork so that as we get the groundwork really solid, we can start implementing more structure with the e-collar. So far, we're just kind of seeing it. We have Senny walking with another dog too, so I can kind of see how he is with the other dogs. And, you know, he's been very impressive so far. So with the leash pressure, what we're trying to work out with the leash pressure is by turning the pressure on and off, meaning as Frank goes and pulls in any direction, my job is to help him back into my bubble and teach him that with that pressure turning on, all he has to do is to come back into my space to turn it off. So he applies the pressure and then he turns it off when he's in the right position. And we kind of just play this little game of on and off until he's comfortable enough to be stable in this position. So as he gets distracted, he starts to walk out. Oh, that was good. He caught himself there, which is good. So he walks out, pressure turns on, he feels it, stops, comes back into my position, and then we start walking again. So again, he starts walking. So he's already starting to learn, going out too far, that pressure's gonna catch it. And so he starts coming back. So he's already starting to catch that a little bit. And as we generalize it now, when we start making it more specific to the criteria with the e-collar, the duration and everything like that, then that circle will get a lot closer to where we actually want that heel command. Wanted to talk about kind of why we do the leash pressure stuff, why we kind of have this groundwork leading into eventually the e-collar training and stuff like that. So the most important thing with doing this leash pressure stuff now is so that the dog has very clear instructions on what we're trying to get them to do, right? The problem with the e-collar sometimes that people run into is that the connection from what they're asking the dog to do and what it's doing can be unclear, right? Because you don't have this direct line, you don't have the leash attached to you, attached to the dog, helping them with that leash pressure, whether with the walking or with our beds or our downstays or everything like that. So the most important reason why we do it is so that we can help the dog with eliminating confusion, as well as help the dog with the understanding of what we're trying to get the dog to learn as well. And once we have a clear understanding of that, a lot of times, you know, it can take a day or two. Sometimes it can take like a week or so. So it really does, it depends kind of on the dog, on the individual dog, how long it takes for them to kind of catch on to those things. And there's a lot of different variables that can determine that. So with Frank, he learned very quickly just on that short little walk. He was already able to kind of pick up on what we were trying to get him to do with being closer to me and staying closer to me while we're walking. But once we get that understanding, then we can start to transfer over to, again, more of that specific kind of instructions and criteria of where we actually want him to be and stay. So this teaches him where he shouldn't be, but with the e-collar and the instructions and the commands, we teach them also where they should be. Right. So, so through this, leash pressure and stuff, we generalize a lot of our instructions and our commands. And then we can kind of work on that through the e-collar as we go. So again, leash pressure just helps with generalizing what we want from the command. Another good point to make with the leash pressure is that as we're doing this, because we just have such direct kind of line of correction already, we don't have too many verbal commands with the leash pressure. We usually implement more of the commands when we transfer over to the e-collars. The only command that we will really instruct when starting with the leash pressure stuff is our no command. Again, because the leash pressure is more instructing not of where they shouldn't be going or what they're doing wrong, not so much as to what they should be doing right. So again, no marker helps to show them or tell them that they're doing something wrong and that they should expect that correction. And then once they get that good understanding or general understanding of it, and we start implementing with the e-collar, that is where we start introducing, giving the actual verbal commands along with the e-collar as well.
So what's our girl up to?
She's doing pretty good. We went and sat at a cafe for lunch today.
Oh, yeah?
She sat down.
Where'd you take her?
We took her to Stone Oven up on Lee.
Oh, cool. Yep.
And so there's a little backyard thing there, and there were some kids around
Yeah.
and people, and she was very behaved.
Good.
She
I'll
did
take
this.
it. Yeah, that's
and
what we
was
wanted to
very
do.
Good. So she's getting better and better.
Cool. Any big issues since we met last?
No, she's doing pretty good. She's still moaning about the bed. But
Is she getting on it a little better?
yeah, she's
Okay.
getting on it better.
Cool.
She's a piddler.
Okay.
Like I'm home, and if she's not, I have the electronic door now.
Yes.
And she goes in and out. She can go in and out. I was gone for a couple of hours. I came back, and the minute she sees me, she piddles on the floor.
Yep.
She could have gone out. She could have, and she's.
Yeah. A lot of times it's not so much that they have to go as much as they get so overstimulated,
But like a little piddle, I can see this. But this was like
Yeah.
the full thing.
Well, so the biggest thing I recommend for everybody is when you're getting home, if your dog is prone to doing that, obviously you got to get them out right away. But past that, the problem is not so much the bathroom, right? The problem is that she's getting too excited. Right?
She can't control it.
And she can't control it when she gets to that level of excitement. So usually I recommend, like, as soon as you get in the house, like, set a mental timer of like 5 minutes where it's like no touch, no talk, no eye contact. You can go let her outside and stuff, but do not even do anything to create, because a lot of times they're like so on the edge, you even look at them and go, oh, we got high, right? And they just do it, right?
Just do it, right.
So just completely ignore her, and what you'll find for those first 5 minutes, if you do that consistently, is over the course of a week or so, you'll notice that arousal level will come down to a much more manageable point when you get home, where it's not as big of a problem.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so what we'll do today is we're gonna start off with just a little walk around.
Okay.
We'll do like the loop right here, see how she does with some of the distractions and stuff.
Okay.
If all of that looks good, we'll put her on the long line, take her in the field, and kind of start giving her some freedom and work some recalls.
Okay, good. Yep,
So.
that sounds like a perfect solution. And oh my God, the other day she went and I felt like it broke my nose.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I saw stars.
Yeah, if you're still seeing some of that out of her, you really gotta nip that in the butt.
Yeah.
This looks great though.
For fall, at fall, because I sit there and go goo-goo at her,
Yeah, but even then, I actually would with my dogs, I did a lot of drills where I would intentionally get them really riled up and then stop for a second and make sure that, because a lot of dogs, when you get them really riled up and then you stop, they try to jump at you or something like that, right, to kind of keep the game going.
Okay.
And when I would stop, if they would do that, I would correct them, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And what that did was that taught them like a really good off switch where, you could get all wound up, but the second I stop,
They know it's done.
yeah, it's done. Game's done. Yeah, she's walking fantastic right now. This is probably the best I've seen her walk with you so far.
Yeah, she's paying much more attention.
Yeah.
To me.
So once we get past this little line of trees right here, what we'll do is I want to see you put her into a couple down stays.
Y'all went on it, like going into
Very good. Get comfortable over there. Hi.
Now, she doesn't do this well when you're not here.
You know, it's normal that the dog will be a little bit more behaved around the trainer, but the reason for that is not because there's anything magical about us.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that when we're present, generally speaking, the rules are enforced about as strictly as they can be, right?
Okay.
So what that tells me is if you're telling me that she's not quite as good when I'm not there, is that you're probably letting a little too much slide.
Okay.
So I would look for places to really buckle down on if you're giving her freebies, not giving corrections, maybe not correcting high enough for things, stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of walk around this area a little bit here and practice some recalls. So I'll let her kind of drift off a little bit. Bandit, come. And then I'll practice calling her back over to me. No. Bandit, come. Good. Okay. Bandit, come. Good job. Okay. I'll just do a couple of those till it gets a little bit smoother. Bandit, come. Good job. Okay.
Should I put her in a sit maybe and then have her no?
Nope. Because the goal here is in between them to give her freedom. Let her do whatever she wants to do, and if she winds up just following you around, she's not doing anything wrong at all. We don't want to discourage that at all in a type of environment like this. Bandit! All right.
Bandit, come.
Beautiful. Bandit! Hi.
Bandit, come.
Beautiful. Bandit! Bandit!
Bandit, come.
Tell her no. There you go. So this is generally what we'll see is, you see how she got a little excited, and as each one she got more excited, she started blowing past you on it. We want to make sure we're very strict about that. Once we give that come command, I expect her to come and then stop next to us, obviously. You'll see she'll try that a couple more times, then she'll start getting it.
This is a game.
Good job! Yeah, it's fine. Training's supposed to be fun.
Bandit, come.
Say it a little louder.
Bandit, come.
There you go. Much better that time. All right, why don't you go ahead and bring her on over this way. Nice. All right, why don't you bring her over here and then put her into a down stay somewhere.
Down.
Perfect. And then we're just gonna have her chill there for a minute. So anytime I do a bunch of recalls like that, I try to kind of end with some stability so she doesn't get too, you know,
Wound up,
wound up and anticipating running over to you every time. So we're just gonna let her chill there for a minute. That looked great though. She's doing really well.
She is doing really good.
So hypothetically, the next step would be actually taking the leash off, obviously.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
usually I recommend as you first start practicing this in a really distracting environment, a long line or something like that is nice to have just for like a backup. If you needed to, you could like step on it or grab it real quick or something like that.
Right. And she's getting better and better. It really is.
Yeah, day by day, you know.
Day by day.
How much more time do we have when you leave again?
On the 20th, so we got 2 more weeks?
Perfect. Yeah, we'll get a couple more in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Next one, we'll actually take her off of the leash and work some like formal off-leash stuff.
Okay, that would
So
be great.
this looks good.
Oh, you're a very pretty boy. So I was just reading over his paperwork of what brings you to training. So seems reactivity to everything.
Yes.
Bikes, scooters, dogs, everything. Yeah. So how long have you been struggling with him?
Since we brought him home.
Okay. Okay. And tell me a little bit more about the reactivity. Is it really hard to get him focused back in?
Yeah, once if you can keep him from then
Yeah.
he can be manageable, but once he's triggered, then
Okay.
it's very hard to get him back. Like it's basically just have to remove him.
Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't look like he's ever redirected at you or bit you or.
He's very good.
He's very, very good with us. Just
Okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was surprised with, he's definitely more, takes to women easily more, but like even with just us being here and him being able to walk up to you like that, usually, because I don't let people, we avoid everything,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
Out in the outside world. And
Okay.
the very, very few people that he knows, like even like our neighbors and everything, he still goes crazy at.
Okay.
He sees them every day.
So barking, lunging,
Yeah,
I would say.
the lunging is more at bikes, motorcycles, dogs,
Okay.
not so much as people, but he will lunge at people too,
Okay.
from a distance.
okay. And any socialization with other dogs, or have you been kind of turned off from doing that?
Yeah, I know, we've been too afraid.
Yeah.
We do board him, and it seems like they've told us, he hasn't been allowed to have contact with other dogs.
Okay.
But like, when we drop him off, he's a disaster. By the time we pick him up, he can walk by a row of dogs.
Okay.
So he just really hasn't had that.
Okay. All right. Hi, bud. He's beautiful.
He's very sweet.
He is.
Yeah.
Like him inside with us versus obviously outside, there's a lot
Sure.
of stimuli and things like that.
Okay.
From seeing your guys' videos and talking with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And just, he's not the type of dog I'm going to be able to take to PetSmart. And
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, our goal is to give you a dog that's a lot more manageable, and we can start to get to the bottom of what's causing the reactivity, so we can start having a life where you can go places with him without having to worry about him going ballistic, and just get your life a little bit better with him.
Yeah, that's
So our focus is the end result of a dog that you feel more confident with, and that we're building his confidence as well. And we're just teaching him a new way to take in the environment and see things. Because right now he's probably just a little bit overzealous, a little overwhelmed, overstimulated with everything.
Right, yeah.
I think he's going to do well with training.
Yeah.
I do. I think he's a very trainable dog.
He wasn't, yeah. We
Sure.
don't know what we're doing. And
Sure.
definitely think he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you came to the right place, because we'll definitely be able to help out with him and get you some relief on some of this. And ultimate goal is to bring the dog and the human closer together, so you can really enjoy him and not feel slightly like he's running your life. Steve.
He has total control over us.
Yeah.
I don't like he's just a nervous nut. I think most
Okay.
of his stuff is fear, like
Yeah.
thunderstorms, like
Okay.
any big sounds. Like he's just so
Like big, like motorcycles is definitely the big, I guess, locomotive thing, but if there's like a big, let's say truck doing deliveries or something, or even like the garbage truck, he's gotten better at it since we
Okay.
come home, but he can hear it and it's kind of it's okay, or redirect, but if let's say one was to come zooming past us and he was very caught off guard, he loses it.
Okay.
Sit.
I'll take him from you real quick. Good. So really high arousal behaviors like that, we're trying, because he was already sitting before Paige left the room and she came back in and he's like, whoa, I don't know who you are. You're like, buddy, she was just in here. Yeah, sure. But in that active state when he's like really like getting to it, I don't think he's in the capability of listening anymore. So we could say sit until the cows come home, but I think really it's about getting him back in the sit physically. And I was a little bit harder with him then because we needed to snap him out of that state of mind, got him back in the sit, and now I'm just gonna let him chill out as she's entering the room again. So the expectation is still the same. But I'm just being a little bit stronger with him right now. Okay.
Do you think the breed makes a difference?
Yeah, certainly. I think breed personality traits play a lot into the role of the kind of dog that we're getting. And a pit bull is very different from a Chihuahua and a Shepherd and a Doberman. So all of these breeds have individualities that make them what they were bred for through thousands of years of genetics. So yes, breeds sometimes can make dogs have specific, like being a little bit more headstrong versus a little bit more passive. And then it also has to do with genetics. So genetically, he probably is just not a very stable dog, and that's not a bad thing. We're just gonna have to work toward getting him to have some rules and listen to us, but ultimately we're not gonna fix who he is genetically. Training is a great way to help that though. But you hear the saying like, oh, it's all how they were raised. And likely if you raise this dog from a puppy and he's from the same genetic background, he's still gonna have the capabilities to be that reactive and anxious and nervous. So while it does help to raise them correctly and put a lot of the structure into place, ultimately he is who he is. Doesn't mean that we can't work around fixing things or helping him feel better about being out in public and seeing dogs. Good. Good boy. Good job. Good. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely still does take a little bit getting used to, like,
Sure.
you know, wanting to apply that correction to him, but not being afraid to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
give him a little.
When each come in, he kind of, he didn't seem like, was it because I didn't pull hard enough? Do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. So it wasn't enough of a consequence for him to be motivated by. So as we're exploring this new relationship with him and we're going to be setting these boundaries, we have to find something that is motivating enough for him. When we get to the e-collar stage, that's going to be a firm enough correction for him to care about. Or like the prong, it's not that you were doing anything wrong, it's just your first time using a prong and he's going ballistic and he just didn't care enough. So when I came in, I gave him a very firm correction and you could see he was like, oh, who is this lady? Yes. So we have to get a little bit more firm in different situations. So we could get away with that light pressure when he was used to everybody being in the room when we were kind of guiding him around. But you saw when I left the room, when Paige left the room, this like sudden person coming back in, he's like, oh my God, who are you? Yeah. And it's comical to us, right. But to him, he's having a very real reaction to that anxiety, that fear, that being suddenly surprised. So I'm kind of matching that with even out, and he was able to kind of settle down a bit there. So over the course of the next week, I'd like you to do your training on the black collar. So walking, training, all on the collar. I'd start in the house, just get him walking around your house just like we were here.
Okay.
Get him to get into some of those sits. Really focus on pausing in between reps. And he's not allowed to get up until we say okay. This is gonna just, I think, have him focus a lot more and look at us a lot more. And then if you do have a dog bed, we can guide him on and off of the dog bed. Not a huge deal this week. I just want you to focus on some of the walking and the sitting in the house.